Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Unlocking the Strategic Potential of AI in Accounting, a Roadmap for Executives. My name is Megan Ward, and I'm on the marketing team here at Bill. Before we get started, I just want to do a quick technical check, go through some housekeeping items, and just make sure that everything is working okay. If you would do me a favor and go to the Q&A tab of your panel on the right-hand side, type out a comment just to let me know that you can hear my voice, you can see my video, and that the title slide is showing on your screen. Perfect. I'm seeing some comments come in, so I know I'm not just talking to myself. The Q&A section is where you can put any of your questions or comments for our panel throughout our webinar today. And then at the end, if we have any time, we can get to some of those questions. Also, if you're having tech issues, please let us know in that Q&A section, and we will respond as quickly as we can. Now, for some of the normal housekeeping items you're used to with webinars, attendees who answer at least 3 polling questions and remain logged in to our webinar for at least 50 minutes will be eligible to receive a certificate for 1 CPE credit. If you're eligible, you'll receive an email with a link so that you can retrieve that certificate in about the next week, so within a week after the webinar. The next thing for you to know is that we have put together some additional resources for you that can be found under the Docs tab over on your webinar dashboard. This includes things like a handout of the slides from today, a link to sign up to a demo from Bill, and a couple of links to some awesome new automation and AI content that our team has put together for you. Finally, we are recording today's session, and it should be available for you next week. Now, to get us started, I am actually going to go ahead and launch our first poll question. The Bill team is curious where our attendees are in your bill pay or spend and expense management journey. Would you like to learn more about a specific product? Let us know in the poll, and our sales team will follow up with you to provide a demo. For those of you who aren't yet familiar with the Bill suite of products, we are a leader in financial automation software for small and mid-sized businesses. As a champion of SMBs, we are automating the future of finance so that businesses can thrive. Hundreds of thousands of businesses rely on Bill to more efficiently control their payables, receivables, and spend and expense management. Bill's network connects millions of members so they can pay or get paid faster. Bill is a trusted partner of leading U.S. financial institutions, accounting firms, and accounting software providers. Our spend and expense management solution, including our corporate card offering, gives businesses the credit that they need and helps them save time and money by automating expense reports, budgets, and reimbursement processing all in one place. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll down for you. And I would love if we could, get onto the good stuff, get onto the reason why you're here. So please help me welcome our panelists, Richard Korn, Randy Johnston, and Amber Wellbeloved. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Megan. And I'm very excited to have this panel today. My name is Richard Korn. I'm a CPA turned product manager, and I manage the accountant channel here at Bill, helping to get the right tools in place in Bill to serve accounting firms. And with us today, we have Randy Johnston and Amber Wellbeloved. Randy, do you want to give us an introduction?
Richard, thank you very much. Welcome to all of you attending today, and we're very pleased to have you along. I'm Randy Johnston out of Hutchinson, Kansas. I am a K2 partner, and we produce CPE in the U.S. and Canada to about 100,000 CPAs every year. So again, happy to share some knowledge about AI with you today.
Thanks, Randy. How about you, Amber?
Hi, everybody. I'm Amber Wellbeloved. Excuse me. Hi, everyone. This is Amber Wellbeloved. I'm joining you today from San Francisco. Thank you for being on this call, and thank you to Bill for this conversation. I am the partner and operations leader for our CAS practice group at Aprio. We're a happy Bill customer, and my focus is really on growth, driving efficiencies, and scale in our CAS practice. And AI is an important piece of that.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ambra. So on today's agenda, we have three major topics. We're going to talk about the components of a robust AI strategy, things to consider in that strategy, and recommendations for your firm. We want to talk about how AI can enhance CAS. We all know that there can be a lot of manual processes, and AI is really making waves right now, and let's figure out how to make our lives easier with AI. And then finally, how are leading firms using AI in real life, in practice, so that you can understand at your firm how to apply those. So let's set the groundwork for what exactly the audience knows. We have a poll question here that Megan's going to launch, and I'll read it out. So be sure to answer poll question 2, which is, how do you feel about AI in your firm? Are you excited? Are you hesitant? Confused? Are you against it? Or other? And feel free, if you have other thoughts, to go ahead and drop those in the Q&A. We talk about a lot of AI at our company and at conferences with the AI CPA. It's a big topic, and there's definitely a large spectrum of use cases, and there's a large spectrum of controls that need to happen around AI. So I understand if people are hesitant, that makes a lot of sense, but balancing that hesitancy with excitement is something that could probably benefit us all. I see about almost a majority of people, 50% now, are excited about it, with 37% hesitant. So I'll give everyone another about 10 seconds to get your poll question in. Be sure to answer so that you get that CPE credit. All right, I'm going to consider that votes being in. The majority are excited, some are confused, and a few have comments in the panel. So let's take that and jump into an overview of AI. Maybe we'll get some of that hesitancy cleared up. And we're going to jump in with Randy on the overview.
Well, very good. So you've heard a lot of press on AI. It's all the buzz. And in fact, there is so much stock market activity around this from both the hardware and software perspective. But AI is really straightforward in my mind. AI is software that can learn and perform for you, solving different types of problems and achieve goals. And it does do it with some form of intelligence. It's really written with algorithms to make everything work. And these two definitions from both the Stanford Institute and McKinsey basically try to lay out that computer scientists are trying to build products that can think and reason like humans do. My vision for the accounting profession is that AI will be built into many platforms that we use every day, and we'll use some of the general tools in the market, the likes of Copilot 365 or Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini to do the general things. Now, we are already seeing productivity uplifts of anywhere from 5 to as high as 40% measured in CPA firms that are using AI. But just think of it as an assistant. I don't even use search engines at this point. I'm doing all of my search with AI as well. So AI is kind of a broad topic, and using the Gartner hype cycle to get us started, at the very peak of the hype cycle in 2023 was generative AI. A lot of the AI discussions around these large language models, the 4 products represented in my prior comment, are all very, very dominant in the conversation, and they're advancing relatively rapidly. Now, we expect AI to go through a trough of disillusionment, if you're familiar with the Gartner hype cycle. And it was interesting in just listening to broadcasts this morning, how with NVIDIA's announcements, how, the stock market reaction may be a little bit different. But to me, this is all about what AI can do for the productivity of accounting professionals. So we expect AI to be with us for a long time. Now, the ability of AI to be human-like is probably a good 25 years off, but we think we're less than 5 years off from AI being somewhat self-writing. Now, Bill is an example of a company that has been building AI into their various platforms. So inside accounts payable, we're seeing it today with invoice data extraction and duplicate invoice detection. It's identifying missing bills. It's identifying and populating vendor address information from invoices. And in general, across the profession, you're going to see that what we used to refer to as OCR, optical character recognition, is going to be improved with the AI application. We're seeing a very big recognition increase, performance increase there, but also things like document splitting or W-9 extraction. Now, in the bill spend and expense product, here coding transactions and including populating categories or analyzing merchant and transaction information, as well as the history of selections, are all examples of AI surfacing inside the products that we use. Now, in effect, I consider automation and then AI to be a bridge to get us from today, where we're dealing with staffing shortages and frankly just not having enough employee or talent resources, to get us to some future state. And in effect, the issues of workload compression and staffing, I think, can be mitigated by automation, which includes things like the OCR and digital transformation and AI that we're talking about. And a number of you are using outsourcing or onshoring along with your recruitment and process engineering to get there. So I think we've got both a people front to address and an automation front to address. And the promise so far on AI is pretty stunning in almost every practice area, from CAS to tax to audit and more. And we'll be talking more about those as we go. But we want to get you started on an AI strategy right away. So to do that, let's think about that. But I think, Richard, we're probably up for the next polling question.
Yeah, we're just about there. I want to highlight again, Randy, that I think you set the stage very well for how Bill has been using AI for a long time under a different moniker, OCR, or other very narrow AI. And like you mentioned, the generative piece is really what's creating a lot of buzz. And I think, Ambra, we had a good conversation about how AI and people interact. And I'm just kind of curious, Ambra, to get your point of view on what Randy was saying around the people piece of AI.
Sure, Richard. Really, from the people side of things, we at Aprio are looking at AI as a way to enhance our team's skills, not to replace our teams. And so it's something that we are embracing fully and making sure that our teams and our clients are armed with information and practical training on how to use AI and how, again, that can further enhance their skills and also increase their productivity.
Absolutely. That is the piece that makes me most excited, is the getting staff out of the weeds and into the relationship piece, that kind of the reason we are all in the accounting profession, to help our clients understand their financial picture. And, the less time we can spend in Excel coding transactions or doing other manual tasks, the better. But
that's exactly right. And we talk so much in CAS about really being the trusted advisors and getting to advisory. And this just accelerates that for us.
Absolutely. And like you said, Randy, it all starts with a strategy. So let's talk about a little bit of practice here. And to get an idea of where the audience is at, just let us know. Poll question 3, do you have an AI strategy at your firm? Yes, no, you're working on one, or your firm does not use AI. Go ahead and get those responses in. we can get an idea of how everyone's feeling in the audience today. So far, no strategy is winning out, about 42% or 28 votes there. Working on one is coming in a close second. That's always good to hear. As Randy mentioned, as the quote unquote hype cycle increases and we talk about generative AI, it seems like everyone's trying to work on how that would infiltrate the firm and doing it in the smart way, right? That's what the strategy is, doing it in the intentional way. So it looks like we have all of our responses in, and no strategy is the winner, with a second place 34% being working on one. Well, you're in the right webinar, because that's what we're going to talk about next. Let's jump off of this poll and move into what an AI roadmap for firms might look like. Back to you, Randy.
All right. And Richard, you were absolutely spot on when you think about models, because yes, we've got narrow and small and medium and large language models in AI. And for those of you attending today, that's probably technically not important to you, other than to say that vendors that are building products are picking models to accomplish tasks. So again, based on the response you just did in the polling question, oh my, we can help you get a lot further along with AI in your firm to benefit your team members and your clients, I think, right away. So, I just want to start off with the idea that the best thing you can do is set a strategy. Now, I've been very conservative about my recommendations in AI because I want to protect my clients' personal identifiable information. So I have a pretty strong rule that I apply, that I don't put PII into any of the models. But from your firm's perspective, you need to think about where you might benefit. You might pick a single practice area to leverage AI. You might decide that you're going to do a targeted productivity approach. You might choose to build prompts that you can use. Prompts are simply the phrases that you might type into an AI model. That's commonly referred to as prompt engineering. You might set some standard prompts for your firm and maybe roll out with just a couple of 3 people to get that done. So we think it's productive to build a prompt generation standard for your entire firm and for productivity. Now, in general, I like to see tools that include AI after you confirm that they have appropriate guardrails around them. One of those guardrails might be a SOC audit. Particularly if you're a larger firm, being able to do a single sign-on so we don't have to log in and log out and log in to these systems as much. And another one that's very important is sub-processor relationships. Now, these are buried way down in the license agreements, and I know most of you and your teams don't read these license agreements, but I do, because we've found that some of the sub-processor relationships I would put on the naughty list and some on the nice list. There's some sub-processors that protect your client information, and there's some that don't. But I believe one of the best things you can do is build a client offering that's optimized with AI. So today, I frequently recommend firms build their advisory practices using AI tools, which gives so much leverage. Now, Amber, I know that at Aprio, you've done quite a few things in the AI area. And can you give us a bit about Aprio's strategic plan and some of the ideas that you're executing on with AI?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, I'm really happy to say that Aprio has been very proactive in the AI space with regards to, we do have an AI strategy, and it's a thoughtful strategy that really covers not only usage, but also governing policies. We have a generative AI acceptable use policy. We have AI ethics policy. And as I mentioned before, appropriate training and continued conversations with our teams around the use of AI. You hit all the key points, Randy, in terms of what you want in your strategy is first and foremost to make sure that you're protecting your client's personal information as well as your team's information. The generation of prompts, standard prompts that can be used within the different practice groups is a very helpful tool. I see that being shared around our firm frequently, tips on how to get the response and the information that is most useful to you as well. And we absolutely do select tools that have AI components not only built in, but also that are secure, or as you said, they have appropriate guardrails, appropriate measures that we've vetted to make sure that they are in line with our use policies. And so you hit all the kind of highlights on really the components that should be part of your AI strategy.
Now, Amber, I know that one of the things that we had chatted about is how you're empowering users with AI tools. For example, Copilot 365. And, when I think about the big tools, for a lot of CPA firms, choosing the Microsoft Copilot platform has some natural indemnification. It was about a year ago at this time that Microsoft laid out how they would protect firms who were using their platform, and the natural integrations into the Office products for Outlook, which we'll talk about on the next slide, for email filtering and for presentations and others. So do you have a few examples of how your productivity has been maybe made more efficient with Copilot 365?
Sure. And why don't we go to the next slide where we talk about actually some practical, as you mentioned, filtering emails and whatnot. All of the advice that's provided on this slide here, these are all things that will enhance your productivity and improve your efficiencies. We look at it to do a lot of things. Like it really it's an accelerator when we talk about it. And I even sometimes say to myself, gosh, if this is going to take me more than 5 minutes to do? And if it does, how can I use AI to help make that faster? So things like drafting messages, maybe email or documents, just to even get that kind of accelerated jump start on things. Building client responses so that you can really just quickly summarize information, so then you can then focus on the personalized components of what you really want to provide to your clients, and get to the real advice, the strategic advice that you're bringing. And the rest is just again, that summary of actions and whatnot. What else can I say here for you?
Well, while you're gathering your thoughts there for a minute, I will just suggest that one of my favorite practitioner advice on using AI was just consider emails that you've received, and maybe you're maybe even a little heated in your response, or you're thinking about things that you'd want to say. You can actually have AI look at all the emails, draft a response with the tone that you'd like for your review. Now, most people find it much easier to revise something that they see rather than write it from scratch. And besides filtering email, you can actually build client responses with the examples that they provide and provide tone. And in some firms, I'm actually having them, the AI, use the style of the firm to generate those responses. So it's back to the prompt engineering. I do believe also that in the past year in particular, I've watched the statistics and the posts that much marketing and social media content is being created from firm-specific content. So perhaps consider your own firm and think about how you try to differentiate your firm when you're doing business development, and then have the AI write X number of posts. So it's very common that I will start that way and say, create 8 social media posts that are appropriate for X, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the topic is this, and write it in this tone, and so forth. And it does a beautiful job of starting that out. Now, is that better than professional marketing people doing it? Probably not. But is it better than writing the social post or the marketing materials ad hoc? Absolutely. And does it give you a place to start from to hand it over to professionals to carry it on? I think it does. The other thing that is quite clear that I'm seeing done in firms, Ambra, is if you're going to do presentations for clients, whether they're in PowerPoint or slideshow format, or whether they're a summary of information, actually tuning those things up with the AI just steps up the game quite a little bit. I know in audit reports that we often will customize, we're trying to tune up and impress the receiving boards for the audit reports with illustrations of what's covered in the audit. So hopefully, Amber, that gave you a moment more to think about Aprio specific applications of AI today.
Yeah, no, thanks, Randy. That was helpful, and you did remind me. I was speaking a lot about sort of speeding up work and moving faster, but you bring a good point forward, which is also about quality, right? And really using it and having fun with it. Tone is a great example. So one prompt that you might use is make this draft more succinct, or use a more casual tone. And you can play around. I almost never use whatever is the first response that I get back. I continually fine tune it to get it to the point where, one, it's more reflective of my true sentiment, and also reflective of our firm, right? But another great example of how I will customize, or we will customize, our firm responses or our firm use of generative AI is, we have our firm fundamentals that are really our core values, and I can even bring that in to my drafts. I can say, utilizing XYZ firm fundamentals, craft a response that provides XYZ, and that can really be a powerful way to combine language that is consistently used and lived within our firm to the replies that we're providing.
Yeah, so that makes great sense to me, Ambra. And I know that when I use AI, and I'm probably a little old school on this, I know all the consultants that recommend throwing away the timesheets, but I still keep timesheets for my cost basis. And I have noted in 2022 versus 23 versus 24 that my AI leverage is about 35%. And so it is such a big deal. And as you just said, writing, having the AI write in your tone, just listening to me today, you can hear kind of the style and the way I speak, but I have a similar style when I write. And I can actually provide the AI engines things that I've written in the past, say, look, talk about these new topics. Here's an example of my prior writing. Make it sound like me. And when the AI generates documents for me, they sound exactly like me. Now, just for the record, I don't publish AI documents, but I use them as a starting point. And the productivity gain for me personally has been huge. And I believe that those things can happen for every one of your team members if you choose to deploy AI. But the last point on this slide is also very important. As you're replacing tools in your practices, we're going to encourage you to look for tools that have AI built in. The developers are spending a fair bit of effort to try to make tools smarter, and they're trying to leverage AI in the right way. Further, they protect your clients' data inside their platforms. And I'm very cognizant, again, of not allowing PII information to leak out. So I think, Richard, it might be wise just to see if you have any other comments from our attendees or questions?
Yeah, everyone, please, as things come to your mind, please jump into the Q&A and let us know. We'd love to make sure you're getting the most out of this session. I will say, Randy, when you talked about the sub-processor relationships, one thing that came to my mind and maybe on the mind of some of our listeners is, what does Bill do with your data? And I can tell you, we're very proud that we have a very strict governance policy with data. We never share data with external AI companies, even though we have AI built into our platform and we use vendors. We always keep the data on our side and just call their services with APIs, meaning those sub-processors that are probably very popular names you've heard of in the space that maybe share data across large models. Bill's data is never inside of that external training set. So it's important to look at your other financial providers in your tech stack to understand if you agree with how they're using your client's data. And if you want to disclose that to clients, in your engagement letters or how those data will be handled, it could be wise to consider. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. And I know we touched on a few of these areas with Aprio. I'm wondering, Ambra, we talked about time tracking, content and contract analysis. Anything else from Aprio you'd want to call out, that you think is a really key use at your firm?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Richard. And I just want to say, to cap the last slide, really the emphasis and what I loved about what you shared, Randy, was that it really is, you can take smaller steps, or it is about evolutionary, not revolutionary changes with AI right now. It's a pretty easy thing to dabble in, and to not, when there was hesitancy in some of the poll responses earlier. And I would say, if you want to dip your toe in, you can do so safely and build your confidence over time with using AI. So let's talk a little bit about Aprio and AI. It's really a powerful tool for us to drive efficiency across the firm, to ensure that we're continuing to provide exceptional service to our clients. And these are just some ways in which we do that. It's a great tool for keeping informed. It can help us stay up to date on industry developments. We serve a diverse range of clients across a number of segments, and we all know how much information is out there. So really utilize this tool to help you gather, summarize, and hone in on what's happening, and kind of just fine tune your learning streams, if you will. It's a great tool for that. Additionally, contract analysis. It can analyze contracts, amendments, and renewals, and just, if only to ensure that we're meeting all the commitments that we have made within those agreements. We've talked a little bit about client relationships, helping to summarize client conversations, and really with the goal of focusing on the spot-on advice and personal touches, as opposed to just the gathering of and regurging of information. We want to, here's the information, here are the details, but let's talk about what that means for you, and providing that strategic advice. What I love about AI for the team is everybody gets a virtual assistant, right? You have access to something that helps you with your work, whether it's helping to draft those emails, or doing a quick lookup on how to do something. Say it's a spreadsheet with a long formula. How do I do this? Quick tips. As Randy mentioned, I also don't use search anymore. When we used to use search and need to filter all that information ourselves and determine what was the highlight, this will do it for you. And then another thing that has just been a game changer is really about meeting efficiency. Just even the act of taking minutes and tracking your items allows everybody to be engaged in those meetings, focus on understanding what the discussions are, and really using your critical thinking, as opposed to having a distracted part of you, which is, I need to make sure I'm tracking the notes. I need to make sure I'm tracking my takeaways. So these are just some ways that we use AI to drive efficiency at Aprio.
I really love the meeting notes
Game
item you called
changer.
out there. We use that heavily. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. So especially if you
I
have
had
a virtual firm.
I found myself
Oh, yeah,
in
go
an
ahead.
in-person meeting a couple weeks ago, and I realized there wasn't an AI taking my notes for me, and I had to keep track. And it was a moment of, oh my gosh, I've really become dependent on this.
It
Yeah,
spoils you so
Amber, that
quickly.
is so hilarious. You're absolutely spot on because very rarely do I attend a meeting where I don't have the note taking. Plus, most of the platforms today also have a catch me up feature. If you arrive a few minutes late, it will tell you what's happened up to this point. Plus, the assignments out of a meeting at the end, they're really super. And I do like your comment about everyone has a virtual assistant. In effect, you start out with what might be an intern level person that you just keep training in your techniques and they get more and more refined. So they become a much better uh, assistant. And I started this very day off by doing contract analysis. Many of the platforms today can analyze PDF or Word documents and summarize them for you. And I will just tell you, one of the summaries I did today was give me the total monthly costs in each of these contracts. And it did it, and it had the links back to the supporting details and so on. So I rarely look at a PDF today and read it end to end without summarizing it first to get the highlights. And think of it as a cliff notes of every PDF that you've ever looked at, and then you can go look at the details as you want to. So the ways that you're doing it, I see very commonly used. And I do feel, I guess I'll say sad for professionals that aren't leveraging the tools yet because they just aren't aware that they could get so much productivity benefit.
I couldn't agree more. Well, with that idea in mind about how the strategy can be so important for your firm, I think it's a good time to segue into what, once you have that strategy, you've decided as a firm what you want to do with AI. Maybe we can talk about what kind of services AI can enhance. There's just a wide variety, and I know, Randy, you have quite a few topics here, so I'll give it over to you to start us off on this.
Richard, that is super. And there are almost no areas. In fact, I might even say there are no areas in your firms that can't be assisted with AI. For example, in tax, we are routinely now doing full preparation of tax returns to the point of taking supporting work papers and having a partner reviewable return with no offshore labor. And it is just stunning how well that works. We're also seeing AI assistance in portals. We're seeing AI assistance in K1 from multiple different vendors. And we're seeing research augmentation from every vendor who has tax research products. So that's just the tax areas alone. In audit, we're seeing comparable results. Risk assessment assistance as you're doing the planning, and extension of audits with quality assurance methodologies to really accelerate the compliance needed in the new quality assurance standards, and more sophisticated testing. We think our vision of 100% testing is getting close as opposed to doing statistical sampling. In practice management, the passive time tracking is so capable today. And I know, Amber, I saw that you'd listed that as an Aprio feature that you were using as well. But also the ability to build engagement letters that are compliant and a little bit more interactive. And in the scheduling area, rather than using traditional Excel sheets or whiteboards, there are AI-enabled scheduling tools that are taking into account team members' capabilities and vacations and other things like that. I do believe that this year and into next, we're going to see a preponderance of fraud. So we're also quite cognizant of how tools are being used for fraud testing and for setting internal control mechanisms. In fact, the last podcast that I recorded was on a internal control piece of software that's all AI based. Now, Amber, I know your expertise is in CAS and advisory, and even though we have taught CAS and advisory now for about 25 years or so, and advisory is one of my favorite areas to talk about, but I like CAS very much. I'd like to leverage your expertise here for just a minute. Would you like to speak to the way Aprio is using AI in the CAS and advisory section that you run for the firm?
Sure. Thanks, Randy. So I will be providing in a little bit some more specific examples of this from Aprio, but I will just say in general for CAS and advisory, there are so many ways that AI can enhance our services. I would probably even flip these bullets and just say automating routine tasks is just one of the biggest efficiency gains that it has brought for us. But not only that, it can do automated bookkeeping and data entry. It can help us with financial statement analysis. It can help us providing insights and recommendations on that data analysis. And it's, again, just helping us be that more strategic advisor to our clients. And as I mentioned, I'll speak more to some specific deliverables in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And as I watch each one of these practice areas and more, I keep track of AI products that are making this work well. And the transaction extraction, for example, there's so many nice new developments there. And from an advisory, truly doing advisory proactively with AI is absolutely doable today. So, when I just think about generative AI, really coming back to our large language model thinking, whether it's ChatGPT or Copilot 365 or Gemini or Claude, it can help with things like tax return engagement letters or research. You've heard both Amber and I say, I just don't do Google search or DuckDuckGo search anymore. I only do AI-based search because it's so much more effective. But also even things like responding to IRS notices and more. So Amber, would you like to speak to some of these, and then I'll maybe back clean up on some of that?
Sure, happy to. And a number of these we've already touched on, right? Client communication being a huge one, again, to emphasize that, as well as automating reports and really summarizing either our meetings or our recapping our actions. Presentation slides, you mentioned this earlier, Randy. You can have a lot of fun with this. Can you think about how many hours in the past you've spent tweaking a presentation, and really just in an instant getting some recommendations that might spark something in you that gets you to where you want to be just a little bit faster and just a little bit nicer. So that's about kind of what I would add to this is there are some common things that we keep coming back to that really are the points to focus on where you can use AI.
Yeah, now that makes great sense. Thank you for that, Amber. Now there's a little subnote there. Notice that there are a number of professionals, I'll say consultants to the profession, that are recommending ChatGPT. I'm not anti-ChatGPT, but I would suggest for firms that you need to get the more sophisticated version Team Enterprise for some of the data restrictions and some of the collaboration capabilities that are inside that platform. But normally when I'm dealing with CPA firms, I will normally go back to Copilot 365 because of the integration with the products that you're used to, or because of indemnification. However, if you're an all Google Workspace firm, then I'd probably be all right with Gemini and some of their advanced versions. So we did, Amber, as you recall, have a few more examples that I think you are doing today with Aprio. And again, we don't have to belabor every point, but I thought if there were ones that were important to you, you could call them out here.
Sure, thanks. And I agree with you about the enterprise version and about Copilot, Randy. I feel very confident and pleased that we've made an investment to have an enterprise Copilot specific for our firm. It just helps really with the confidence that we are doing the right thing to protect our clients' information and protect our teams as well. And having that kind of safe space, the space that has the guardrails. So thank you for mentioning that. Okay, so yeah, as you mentioned, we have talked a lot about a number of these things already. So I'll just kind of quickly highlight again bookkeeping and data entry, routine tasks like data entry, transaction categorization, reconciliation, all help us reduce our manual errors and save time with that activity. On the financial statements, we can really analyze those statements to identify trends or look for anomalies. It provides us with insights so that we can then turn around a deeper analysis and have more accurate forecasting. When it comes to spend and expense categorization, automating things like processing invoices and expenses and payroll. And again, the goal there is really ensuring the accuracy and making sure we're being efficient. Let's see what else to talk about here. I won't speak to tax planning and compliance just because that's not my general area, but that is an area where we are using AI to assist with tax research, look for tax savings opportunities and ensure compliance in those areas. On the risk side of things, again, looking for anomalies, unusual patterns in financial data, and really helping us to mitigate those risks more effectively. And on the right are just some examples of the types of deliverables that we can produce that have been AI informed. That's automated financial reports to fraud detection alerts. Just powerful ways for us to enhance our service offerings.
Yeah, and Amber, I like actually the way you say AI informed, because our rule of thumb is the AI can assist accountants, but they still need professional review on all these AI results. And there is no condition under which I think the AI will replace accountants. It just augments accountants. So accountants using AI will do higher quality work with less effort than than accountants that aren't using AI. So, as we begin to maybe do a little bit of this, I'm going to just pull you back for just a moment, because the AI roadmap here is so important. Our goal over our time together has been to help you set a strategy. You can hear we're very cognizant about protecting the PII. So whether that's with Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT, Team Enterprise, the paid versions have more security around them than the unpaid version. We think a prompt generation standard for the firm is actually good. It keeps everybody from kind of inventing the wheel. So we're trying to get leverage across the entire firm. And of course, having the right tools that make sense here, that protect the data. So, correctly, Richard, you pointed out that Bill, for example, protects the data. I am very unhappy with products that are not protecting the data. And if you consider your most highly profitable practice areas, I think you can get even more profitability and deliver higher quality products if you will optimize those with AI. So I'm thinking that, Richard, it might be time for the fourth poll question. And so I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks so much, Randy. Actually, we do have a few pragmatists in the audience. So before I read this question, I just want to kind of touch back on a very popular question, which is, what are the AI platforms for note-taking? So I know that here at Bill, Zoom is a very popular one. They have a note-taking feature. And we also use Fathom AI. So these are not financial apps. They are not apps that... Oh, can we close that poll? We're not going to go to that poll question yet, Megan. We're going to take the Q&A for a moment. So these are the note-taking apps that we use quite frequently. I was just curious if Randy or Amber, you guys have other examples of the notes that everyone's kind of curious about that point.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there are many products that do that. But Otter AI is a very popular one as well. And almost any of these meetings that you're having, even like this, you can do transcriptions. One caution that I would give you is if you're using meeting transcriptions, there are a few states that are single consent states, Tennessee, for example. So you can actually do the recording and transcription without consent. But there are other states where there are consents. So normally I will inform everybody that, I'd like to run this note taker, if you will, and turn it loose. There are 3 or 4 others that are quite good, but Otter is another one that comes up often along the way.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And
That's a great call, Randy. And I think a lot of, oh, go ahead, Amber.
That's okay. I'd say for our firm, we're a Microsoft 365 firm, and Copilot is fantastic for that. There's another tool, Loop AI, that works for that. So again, just utilizing the AI that is built within our tools already.
Yeah. And Amber, to your point there, one recommendation that I've been on pretty strongly this year is that even though you might be using all cloud-based tools, that the new generation of computer hardwares that have neural processing units in them, so that would be like Intel Core Ultra, AMD makes some as well, can assist with the AI usage. These models will run in the data centers, on the desktops and laptops, and on your phones. And pretty much all of our new generation phones already have neural processing units in it, but there are very specific models from all of the bigs, Microsoft with their Surface, but also Dell and HP and IBM Lenovo, that have Copilot PCs. And you will see that there is a feature that is to be released relatively soon that will enable you to recreate your AI inquiries. And that actually takes a fair bit of local storage to make work right. So just like you called out Copilot in that usage, you're actually going to be far better served with a AI-enabled PC to support that Copilot 365 initiative.
Makes sense.
Great to learn about that. I'll have to make sure my IT team is on that.
There you go. Yeah, any listeners, get those IT folks involved. So what I want to do now, I do want to get this last poll question going before we take the remainder of the questions. So I'm going to jump into poll question 4, which is, how do you think AI will help your firm? So we can jump into, will it give us more bandwidth? Will it improve accuracy? Will it save us time? Will it help enforce standards? Ooh, that could be interesting. Will it help upskill employees? Will it drive down costs or something else? Let us know your thoughts. Tell us where you think AI will help your firm. We've given a lot of examples of how it happens to show up in accounting firms. Which one is most exciting for you? Looks like we're going to have an overwhelming majority on saving time, already 70%, with maybe a second place answer of giving us more bandwidth. That's a similar answer. And then improving accuracy. Definitely those tools that do the review for you. There's tools that obviously generate things like flux analysis. And so if the flux analysis is already written, when the manager comes in to review it, that's where you're going to have that increased accuracy. Less time spent preparing the analysis, more time spent, like Randy mentioned, the value add, the professional eye. It's really the layer on top to keep that trust in the profession, right? All right, I think we have all of our votes in now, and it's going to be the theme of saving time. So with that question, I think we have a few big takeaways from today that Randy wants to bring us home with. All right, I'll jump into the takeaways. Randy, if you are coming back, just let us know. But
Oh, sorry
As
about
we
that.
heard,
Sorry about that. I did
there we
that
are.
classic mute thing.
Perfect.
I was just saying the questions from Valencia and Kathy and Doug, there's such great questions out there. But the big takeaways, let's summarize those up, and then we'll use the rest of our time for questions. And Amber absolutely said this right. We think AI is an evolutionary change in the profession, not a revolutionary change. I think you'll get stunning results if you'll adopt in kind of a traditional creep, crawl, walk, run type of style. You'll find plenty of benefits while you're creeping, and you'll get more and more as you convert to crawl, walk, and run. We do recommend that you be thoughtful about your AI strategy. These tools can do lots of beneficial things for you, and I'd like for you to apply them where you'll get the most leverage first. In general, your publishers are going to be enhancing things with AI. Make sure that you learn how to use those. I was consulting for a CPA firm in the past week who had bought a tool with AI features and they weren't using any of them. And it's like, okay, let me talk to you about how this tool works. I'm a big client data protection guy, so I always teach firms to protect PII. And this is continuous learning. All of these platforms that are out there are leapfrogging each other all the time. It is a continuous learning process. I do know that AI is also assisting on upskilling because we can do so many different things to help us here. So, Florencia, when you were asking that, could you recommend any AI tools that would enhance the quality of financial graphs and visualizations? 15 or 20 without exaggeration. And I tend to recommend, Florencia, tools that are advisory in nature for these types of visualizations. So, for example, tools like For Impact Data or SOBI or ADER would be 3 examples that have superb visualizations that protect the client data. And so, again, Richard, I'll kind of let you drive the question and answer, but I'm so excited about all this stuff.
I totally agree, Randy. There's so many good things in there, and thanks for giving more practical examples. That's always helpful. I think we have one more that we can get to here, and it's a very important one, which is if firms have their managers pushing to share client financials with external AI vendors, what can the leaders of those firms do to make sure the staff understands the importance of the guardrails in the firm? A lot of times managers maybe would say something like, I don't think it's going to be leaked. It's not that big of a company. Maybe we can start with Ambra, since you deal directly with client financials. What would you do to reinforce the guardrails of not sharing financials with unapproved external AI vendors?
Well, I think this speaks to really having that solid AI strategy that includes firm governance and rules and training, right? You really need to arm your teams with information so that they understand the inherent risk using AI. There is risk as much as there's opportunity. There are equal amounts of risk. And so that's where the governing policies really come in. I mean, we have an open chat in our firm that anybody can drop a question to just check, would this be okay? Does this meet the standard? Would you do this? And there's active conversation and monitoring around that so that we can immediately assist our team and make sure that we're supporting them and that they feel confident moving forward. And additionally, really part of that governance is using firm approved tools. So that is just
right.
a non-starter. That's where you need to start, and that's where you need to be.
Makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, if your firm has already chosen a tool, you can direct the managers to say, let's not try to find new ones. We've already vetted the tools we want. All right, we are down to our last minute. So thank you all in the audience so much for your participation. This has been great to hear from you all. You will, as Megan said, receive your CPE credit if you're eligible within a week of this presentation. And Megan, I'll give it over to you for anything else you want to call out.
Perfect. I'll just do that really quickly. Like Richard just said, if you've answered at least 3 poll questions and have been logged on for 50 minutes, you're eligible for CPE, so watch for that. We do have a QR code on the screen, as well as a link in your Docs tab for an incentive we've got going on, that if you complete a demo with our sales team, you can get a gift card. So would love to have you sign up for that. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Well, thanks to all of you too.